The natural grandeur of the Giant's Causeway could hardly be more symbolic. This is the coastline of Northern Ireland, a nation that's laid down the stepping stones to a bright future. An integral part of the healing process is sport, and at the forefront, golf, with Royal Portrush welcoming back the game's most cherished championship. But this iconic Claret Jug is no stranger to a country that's produced two modern-day winners.
The champion golfer of the year is Darren Clarke.
Then, an extraordinary talent realised his dream.
The Open is the one that we all strive for. To be able to hold this Claret Jug is an incredible feeling.
Both men were instrumental in guiding the Open back to Portrush following an absence of 7 decades. In that time, this coveted piece of silverware has been presented either in Scotland or England. Not since 1951, when crowd-pleasing Englishman Max Faulkner overcame rain-soaked conditions to win by 2 shots, have these mighty links been the backdrop for Open glory. Now, though, golf's original championship is back, and a new winner will be crowned.
A very special day in the sporting calendar brings us to this stunning part of the world, as the Open returns to Northern Ireland and Royal Portrush for the first time in 68 years.
After such a wait, thousands of alarm clocks were set pre-dawn to be there for Northern Ireland's major moment. The honour of striking the opening tee shot went to the man who launched this country's golfing renaissance.
I was down on the range at 5:30 and my tee time was 6:40. And I was totally cool with it all, until I walked down the steps. The stand was completely full. And all of a sudden I walked down there and I thought, oh, all sorts of stuff going through my mind.
On the tee from Northern Ireland, Darren Clarke.
So my original plan had been to, take a 2-iron. But I thought, I probably need a slightly bigger head than the 2-iron, so I went with driver.
Well, I can't imagine a better start for Darren Clarke.
If you don't have those butterflies going a little bit, we're in the wrong job. We all get them.
Nerves conquered, Clarke could exhale and target the first birdie of the 148th Open Championship.
I think I'm about 147 uphill, flag at the back left-hand corner, so I knew if I pitched it right, it's going to kick and run in there, and hit a good solid 9-iron and turned it over maybe about 20 feet. And get up there. It was one of those sort of moments that I could have closed my eyes and hit the putt, and I had the feeling that it was going to go in.
Well, he had a big cheer when he arrived on the first tee. Imagine if he holds this one.
I hit the putt, and sure enough, the ball goes in the hole, and the people up behind the stand and everything there were every bit as pleased as I was, so it was a good start.
That was a hope shared by Clarke's fellow countryman, Rory McIlroy. He shot a course record 61 on the Dunluce Links as a teenager and was installed as the title favourite.
I felt good going into the week. I'd had a pretty good year. Up to that point, I had 2 wins. And then with the history of playing Portrush a lot and what I'd been able to do there in the past, I felt like it was a really good opportunity for me to try and get my name on that Claret Jug for a second time.
On the tee from Northern Ireland, Rory McIlroy.
Whenever my name was announced on the first tee, I remember putting my ball on the ground, putting the tee in there, and I felt nervous, physically a little nervous.
Part of his birthday present when he was 10 years old was a trip to Royal Portrush, where he met Darren Clarke, and he must have thought about this moment his entire life, and here it is.
I turned it too much with the wind, and it kept going. think it only went out of bounds by a yard or two. But obviously not the ideal way to start the Open Championship, whether it be at Portrush or anywhere else. I teed the second one back up and, you know, hit it, and that was fine. It was in play. When I got up there, the lie for my, I guess now it would be my fourth shot, wasn't great. There was a bit of long stuff around the ball, and I thought, though, I could muscle something through there and get it up to the front right part of the green.
This is left.
Oh, that's what I feel.
No good.
Oh, there you go. There we go.
No good.
Into the
Look out.
ferns.
That fourth shot went in the ferns on the left side of the green, and I had to take an unplayable. But I guess at this point, I'm just trying to make the best of what I have. You know, it's a pretty bad start, but it's not, you know, it's not as if I was out of the tournament. Even by missing that putt on the first green, okay, I'm 4 over par, but I just said to myself, it's a sort of pretty tough day. You know, if I can get back to even par for the tournament, that was my goal.
Such an unthinkable start had served to illustrate the perils of Portrush. But up ahead, an Irishman with a poor Open record was going along nicely. In the wake of 4 consecutive missed cuts, Shane Lowry felt the need to seek the advice of both his coach and caddy.
He's nearly made it.
What a shot.
I wasn't feeling great Wednesday evening. I was feeling a bit anxious, a bit nervous about what was ahead of me. We went for a coffee and we just laid it all out on the table. Like, you know, we were just very honest with each other. It was like a weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders after that conversation, and obviously I went out Thursday and I performed pretty good.
With a 67, Lowry set the clubhouse lead.
He was able to fly a little bit under the radar in terms of the focus on the Ulsterman. I remember him saying on Thursday, I'm not under the radar anymore. He knew his game was there, he knew he was in a good spot, he knew what he was going to be doing going forward.
Likewise, with reasons to be cheerful, Darren Clarke on track to achieve his goal of making the cut following a level par 71. The second half of the opening day would be marked by pulses of heavy rainfall. Guiding the world #1 was his long-term caddy, Ricky Elliott, who grew up playing and caddying on the Dunluce Links well before helping Brooks Koepka capture 4 major titles.
Not many of my friends or anybody had met Brooks before, and he came round to the house I grew up in, and my mum made him a cup of tea, even though he doesn't drink tea, but he drank it anyway. The first day that the gates opened, and I didn't really know what to expect. And obviously Brooks had never been there before, but from me being there, he was one of the favourites. The support that he got and hearing my name a lot is something unique to me. You got the feeling there's a lot of people behind him.
Koepka teed it up on the back of a sparkling sequence of 4 wins and 2 runner-up finishes in his 9 most recent major starts. Almost inevitably, the American found himself in contention yet again. An opening 68 saw to that. Francesco Molinari became the first Italian to lift the Claret Jug at Carnoustie 12 months earlier, but at Portrush, the defending champion struggled to an opening 74. The 13th hole at Portrush is known as Featherbed, due to the soft landing needed to keep the ball on the green. On day 1, Argentina's Emiliano Grillo played the perfect tee shot as he carded the Open's first hole-in-one since 2016.
How about that?
That ace was a moment to remember for Grillo on an otherwise disappointing day. Meanwhile, Rory McIlroy was about to suffer another blow at the 16th, aptly known as Calamity Corner. Frustrated and now 5 over par. Who would have thought it? Back on the first, where McIlroy's misery began, the competitively rusty Masters champion was about to test his body.
On the tee from the USA, Tiger Woods.
There was a feeling of weather being included that the back was not going to be perfect. He needed something hot to really help his chances. And so on the one hand, he hasn't played since the US Open. On the other hand, the weather's a bit chilly, not good for his back. And so all these things start stacking up against him. And I think that's what brings the expectations down.
Tiger's tee shot and the grimace that ensued hinted at what was to come. Experiencing pain of a different variety was McIlroy.
He started with a quadruple. He's finishing with a treble. 79, 8 over par.
You know, I knew I had a lot of work on my hands to try and, you know, make the weekend, and obviously pretty disappointed, pretty dejected after that first day. But it's golf, right? And you know, some days these things happen. It just so happened to be that, you know, I had, you know, one of my worst days at a time when I wanted to produce something that was close to my best.
McIlroy's dream had been transformed into a nightmare. And behind him, Tiger, a contender right to the end at Carnoustie in 2018, was also toiling. His first round 78 seemed light years removed from victory at Augusta only 3 months earlier. While these two giants stumbled, Ryan Fox created history, becoming the first player to break 30 on the back nine at an Open.
That's a great finish to a round of golf.
The New Zealander achieved that with 6 birdies in his final 7 holes. And as the early evening weather improved, a fearless Spaniard took full advantage.
Oh, lovely birdie for John Ram.
Ram began encouragingly with a 68, but topping the leaderboard after day 1 was an American with Ryder Cup pedigree. That was J.B. Holmes, who finished 3rd at Royal Troon in 2016. Ignoring an early mistake, Holmes was outstanding, and on the 18th putted for a 66.
5 under par, started with a bogey and then flawless from there.
Oblivious to the drama created by others, Holmes had solved the mystery of how to tame Portrush on a day when colossal past achievement supplied no guarantee to success.
So just absolutely perfect conditions here and a beautiful morning on this Friday, day 2 of the 148th Open.
With Portrush in a kindly mood, upwardly mobile movement was on the cards. Australia's Cameron Smith took advantage, posting a 66 to be 6 under par. On that same clubhouse total was South Africa's Justin Harding, round in 65. Inspiring even louder cheers was the joint runner-up at Carnoustie in 2018. Justin Rose also reached 6 under, helped by an eagle on the 12th. But at the forefront of the English bid to win an Open for the first time since Sir Nick Faldo in 1992 was Tommy Fleetwood, hitting form at the right time after a low-key season.
I'd played okay. I'd been pretty consistent, but nothing very special. But coming into that week, my game was in pretty good shape, felt pretty calm and sort of quietly confident that I was playing better again. And we had a plan.
Fleetwood made his first bogey of the championship at the opening hole, but soon rediscovered his touch. And by the time Tommy arrived on the 18th green, the clubhouse lead was within his grasp.
I hold a good putt on 18 to finish the day, which is great. You know, first half of the tournament's done, you've held a putt on the last and you feel really good, and it put me up there, and you know, sort of leaving the course on Friday, because I teed off early, that you know, you're up there going into Saturday.
The downside for Fleetwood was that conditions remained relatively benign, and overnight leader JB Holmes picked up his thread of excellence from Thursday. Competent in all departments, this two-time Ryder Cup player from Kentucky eventually signed for a 68 and 8 under par at the midpoint of the championship. Holmes was leading the American charge, but major specialist Brooks Koepka remained in touch. His presence loomed large heading into the weekend. As morning turned to afternoon, the breeze strengthened, but that didn't prevent Shane Lowry enjoying the perfect start to his second round.
So the guys that played in the morning, they got some nice weather. It looked like they were getting a better side of the draw. You know, I knew I was going to have to shoot a decent score if I was going to keep up with the leaders, but I didn't want to force it. I hit 2 lovely shots into the first. I played the second well, and I hit a lovely shot into the third. And all of a sudden I was 3 under through 3, and I was flying, I was off and running. I was just hitting it in close on every hole.
What a start! And Shane Lowry is 1 off the lead.
Meanwhile, Lee Westwood was turning back the clock. Despite finishing in the top 3 9 times, a major win remained elusive. Could the 46-year-old finally fulfill his ultimate ambition?
The Open Championships tournament, I love it. It's my favourite tournament of the year. You know, I've not been in contention in a major for a while, probably since the Masters, when Danny won, and you know, it was nice to get back in there and play well.
In his 25th Open, Westwood went low on the back 9, joining Fleetwood on 7 under par.
Fantastic shot from Westwood.
Anytime you're in contention in a major championship, it's always exciting, and you know, you do have those thoughts about winning and things like that, but the more often you've been in those situations, the more often you know, you learn what to do.
Yes, well done, Lee Westwood.
4 birdies in 6 holes. Could it be Lee Westwood's turn to win a major?
The afternoon took a turn when rain whipped in off the sea. In the wake of his first round 78, Tiger Woods faced a nigh impossible task to make the cut. But a 1 under par second round underlined those famed fighting qualities. Tiger departed together with Phil Mickelson, the first time that pair both missed the cut at a major for over 2 decades. But nothing could dampen the unbridled enthusiasm surrounding Lowry.
I'm getting feeling he's starting to feed off these crowds.
Rory had obviously struggled the first day, so maybe the crowds weren't as big with him, and all the crowds were coming to me, and it was just incredible.
That thunderously received birdie at the 10th gave Lowry a 2-shot lead. Up ahead, though, Darren Clarke was experiencing vastly differing emotions after a nightmare 18th caused the former champion to miss the cut.
Three under after 5 in round 1, and up 7 up the last.
To go from the elation of the first tee on Thursday to making treble on Friday on the last to miss the cut, I can't describe how bad I was feeling after I came off there. I think I lost the power of speech for about a day after that, unfortunately. But sometimes our sport, that's just the way it is. Sometimes it's hard.
Although not so damaging, Lowry's closing stretch was disappointing. A bogey on 14 was compounded by an uncharacteristically ill-judged chip at the last.
I finished around pretty badly on Friday. It was something that helped me going forward, but I was obviously in a great position going into the weekend.
And it's a bogey at the last, but still a round of 67. He will go into the weekend tied for the lead.
That left the most intriguing subplot to play out. Could Rory McIlroy possibly recover from his soul-destroying opening round?
I sort of reset after that first night and then came back out the next day, and I had a clear target in my mind. I thought that if I shot 6 under par and get back to 1 over for the tournament, that had a real possibility of making the cut.
As the round progressed, the improbable grew ever more possible.
Well, well, well. Suddenly that cut is looking exciting.
Yeah, I made 3 in a row to get to 5 under par, and at that point I thought, okay, you know, I have a pretty good chance here to make the cut, and I think everyone else at that point knew as well. 2 more birdies was what was going to be needed.
Visiting the sand on the 13th briefly halted momentum, but McIlroy immediately retaliated.
For me, the birdie of the day was 14. I had driver 6-iron into that. That was probably the toughest hole of the day and held the putt.
Straight in for McIlroy, a little punch in the air. Look at the crowd. Whoa, you'd think he was leading.
If I could have had 1 shot back, it probably would have been the wedge shot into 15. I was maybe a little pumped up, a little bit of adrenaline, hit it into the back bunker. I still was able to save par, but it was a great opportunity to make birdie.
As McIlroy battled manfully for weekend involvement, so did another favourite son of Northern Ireland. Graham McDowell struck his approach to the last knowing a par would guarantee his walk down the 18th on Sunday. It would be mission accomplished. On an increasingly murky evening, the spotlight now shone squarely on McIlroy, dealing only in the currency of birdies and urged on by a nation.
The cheer on 16 when I made birdie, like I get goosebumps. It was a really cool evening, and the fact that it was 7 o'clock at night and it was a sort of grey, sort of misty, it wasn't very nice, and people still stayed out there cheering me on to the very end. It's something that meant a lot to me. I don't get very emotional over golf, but that day it sort of got the better of my emotions, and it was hard to keep it together for all those 18 holes.
Never before had an Open been so electrified by someone merely trying to make the cut. Everyone was willing in this putt on the 17th. The reality was now stark. Only a birdie on the 18th would suffice. The effort had been Herculean. The reception Rory received, that of a hero.
Anytime I think back, especially that walk up 18, it felt the same as walking up the 18th hole at Hoylake when I won. That second round was one of the most enjoyable rounds of golf I've ever played. I think it felt like what I imagined it would have felt like on Sunday if I had been in contention. At least I got a little glimmer, a little taste of what it would have been like.
They prayed for one last McIlroy miracle. But sport isn't scripted.
I'll look back at Portrush with nothing but fond memories because it was a great experience for me. I feel like I really connected with the crowd and hadn't played in front of a home crowd like that in a long time.
The darling of the galleries came up just short. But with an Irishman sharing the lead, the weekend was rich with promise. Tickets for Portrush's return sold out days after the previous championship, with over 237,000 setting an attendance record for an Open staged outside of St Andrews. Those fortunate enough to be there for round 3 congregated at the first hole to support local boy Graham McDowell.
Saturday was special. You know, to make the cut was very important to me first and foremost. But it was a special morning, and to be out there as the only Northern Irish player left in the field, that the fans really kind of took me with them, and it was a special experience.
Dealing with a tricky northwesterly wind, this former US Open champion moved under par and consequently onto the fringes of contention. One more thing to consider then for the main protagonists, the later starters, as they began to arrive. Following a birdie on 17, McDowell found the fairway at the last, but his ball trickled into an awkward divot.
It was funny, when the shot left the club, because of the sand underneath the ball, I couldn't really feel the strike very well, and when the ball was in the air, I said, I don't think I got it off. Go hard. But when it landed and I heard the crowd react, I knew it was pretty good, and it was a great feeling walking onto that last green and you know, having a tap in to shoot 3 under, and at that time I thought that was a pretty good score.
Well, that's a birdie finish for McDowell, and from the cut line right up into a share of 30th position.
That just shows you how hard it's playing out there.
Saturday early was tough. You know, there was probably it was a 12-15 mile an hour breeze out of a slightly different direction as well. But as I was finishing, I could feel the wind laying down, and I was like, don't you dare.
But testing conditions were gone with the wind. McDowell's fears would be realised. Danny Willett soon exploited the comparative calm, signing for a 65, aided by this artistry.
He's actually played it perfectly.
Willett reached 7 under. Ricky Fowler, who had flown under the radar to this point, putted his way to 8 under. And likewise, gathering momentum, 2017 Open champion Jordan Spieth.
Come on, hit it, man. Oh, that'll do quite nicely.
He closed out the day 7 under. Not everyone thrived. Cameron Smith stalled with a level par round, and Justin Harding followed his excellent second day 65 with a mediocre 74.
Stop. Oh no.
Out of bounds.
Friday had seen the exit of 2 headline makers, but at the Open, there's never a shortage of storylines.
It was set up beautifully for another remarkable Open championship, but I still felt a huge deflation just because Tiger was gone and Rory was gone, and I think it took until the middle of Saturday and had so many possibilities, and you had that big name, lurking name, that Koepka fella who just never goes away.
The calm but confident world number 1 was right there. 2 front-9 birdies carried Koepka within touching distance of the lead. By now, the penultimate group were on the course, and Tommy Fleetwood had an opportunity to make the ideal start.
Big thing that we were doing all week was staying really sort of calm and very present, so I just didn't let it really get ahead of me at all. And Lee soon put a stop to that anyway, because he birdied the next 4 holes while I was parring, so it felt like I had no momentum.
Fleetwood's playing partner and fellow countryman seized the outright lead, greatly assisted both practically and mentally by his caddy and fiancée, Helen Story.
She just keeps me in a really good, light-hearted frame of mind. And, you know, when I look like I'm getting a little bit stressed, she knows what to say. And we've never had any arguments out on the golf course.
Thanks to a birdie at the 4th, his 3rd in succession, Westwood vaulted to prominence. This universally popular figure was thoroughly enjoying himself. But in the group behind, J.B. Holmes was also in the zone. He consolidated on a birdie at the 2nd by getting the measure of the 3rd. Playing in the final 2-ball alongside Holmes, Team Lowry consisted of Shane and Bo Martin, Lowry's caddy for less than a year.
I actually was thinking of leaving the caddy business. I was actually involved in another business with another friend of mine. Shane phoned me himself and he asked me to be interested, and I actually had to say, well, I would be interested, but I'm actually not. I'm doing something else at the minute.
He's a great person to have on your bag because nothing is too big. The consequences of failure are not that bad with him, and the relationship has just grown, and we're now very good friends.
With the correct club in hand, Lowry set up his first birdie of the day. He and Bo were off and running. Having started Saturday 3 off the lead, Dylan Fratelli briefly entered the equation.
What a shot from Fratelli.
But that proved the pinnacle for the South African, who shot a 70 to ultimately lose ground. In the market for similar creativity on the 5th was Fleetwood. That birdie was followed by another at the 7th as he joined Westwood and Holmes in sharing the lead. The links expertise of John Ram were still shining bright, just 2 weeks after winning the Irish Open at Lahinch. The Spaniard shot 68 for 7 under. Like every other title hopeful, Justin Rose knew moments of magic were essential to remain in touch.
Eagle chance, he's got it!
That, the standout moment in a Saturday 68, which propelled Rose to 9 under. The afternoon was ebbing and flowing, but the picture was about to become much clearer.
Shane moves to 11 under, he's leading the Open Championship.
1 hole ahead, Lee Westwood was about to make an uncharacteristic error. From there, a bogey came as no surprise. In contrast, Fleetwood continued to fly.
4th birdie of the round for Tommy Fleetwood, and he moves to 11 under par.
And shortly afterwards, Lowry suffered a rare interlude of inaccuracy.
I hit a bad tee shot on 10. Well, I pulled it a little bit, and I was up on the bank on the left. Didn't know what the lie was going to be like. Got up there, it was a bit iffy.
Chip hole to 7.
I suppose we looked at the lie, thought the ball was going to quite okay. And in those shots, you know, with the wind off the right, you don't really want to be hitting it too hard, or you can just feel like you're going to lose the shot right to left.
Any way of running up the green, you get all those banks to help. It's not going to push it in.
It was a perfect yardage for an 8-iron, but you know, I felt like if I just hit 8-iron that it could snag in the rough and come out left.
Well, if this comes out hot and pitches like 5 on the green, does it go through the green?
I think it's very unlikely, just on the angle. Do you know what I mean? Because it's going to run up one of those banks.
But if it runs up one of those banks too hard, it goes into that rough then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you can use the other bank to pitch down up in front. Do you know what I mean? With the flag, it's in the narrowest part of the green.
I just feel like if I hit 8, there's a chance of going left.
That's the club.
Do you know what I mean? Okay.
You know?
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
We both agreed that it was, you know, it was a 7-iron and I could just chop down on it and hold it.
The banks were always going to help us, and the pin was in the narrowest part of the green, which means the bank are going to help you more because they can go up and down it.
Oh, listen to the roar as the spectators realise that Shane Lowry and Bo, his caddy, had worked it out perfectly.
You know, the shot worked out pretty much as we called it, which was nice to see.
That was a big shot, you know, because you make bogey there, all of a sudden you're on the back foot a little bit, but the momentum was always with me, you know, I was always moving forward.
This to go 12 under.
Cheers filled the air. The intoxicating groundswell generated by something memorable in progress. Under the steerage of Ricky Elliott, Brooks Koepka clocked off at 9 under. Frustration on the greens was the theme until late on a day of what might have been for the world #1.
And finally.
On Portrush's final hole, Tony Finau had no need for a putter.
Now there's the way to finish a day.
That outrageous birdie lifted the big man from Utah to 7 under. As for Westwood, though, he could empathise with Koepka. After such a red-hot start, his putter had grown increasingly uncooperative.
Things like that happen. I probably didn't hit it close often enough, you know, I kept leaving myself 30, 40 feet, or, you know, the closest I'd get was 20 feet, and, you know, those kind of putts don't go in very often.
Bogey for Lee Westwood at 15.
The ball just wouldn't go in.
The same could be said for Fleetwood.
To get tied for the lead. Oh.
While others began to look mortal, Lowry and Caddy were serving up golf from the gods.
That's exactly where the hit, because of the speed of it, you know what I mean? Yeah. You want me to give me a good target, yeah? I've got a little dot left the flag underneath that. Yes, I see it. Yeah, that's good. All right, okay. Yeah.
Like, I was playing a very special round of golf. I was in the zone. Like, you don't get in the zone an awful lot as a golfer, but I felt like I was going to birdie every hole.
Wow, that was great contact there and a brave shot.
A birdie on 15 would assert Lowry's authority as his joyous fan base watched in awe.
Oh, nice stroke, nice rhythm, nice putt.
And it's a 2-shot lead for Shane Lowry.
The crowd, they were like sucking the ball into the hole. It was crazy.
6 under par, Danny Willett scores the best score of the day. He's tied with that in the final group, leading the Open.
A majestic move, but at the 16th, potential calamity always loiters.
We'd played the golf course 3 weeks previous. Myself and Shane hit it through the back of the green. So we'd actually looked at where we're going to land the ball during the tournament, and there's a little ridge about 10 short where just in front of the little swale on the left-hand side, so we were always going to try to pitch it around the front.
We both agreed that if I just hit it up the left side of the green with a little cuff 4-iron, that'd be perfect.
I'd say if he was really honest, he'd probably say he pushed it about 3 or 4 yards. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I did push it a little bit. I wasn't aiming at the flag. The very minute I hit it, I was like, oh, this is good, yeah.
Oh, it's just magnificent. The best shot we've seen all day at 16.
Oh.
He punched me afterwards because I said, you pushed that, didn't you? And he laughed.
But the impact of any great shot is diluted if the subsequent putt doesn't fall.
He's got it. He's got it.
Leading the Open and in touching's distance of a new course record.
You know, it was great to hold that putt because birdie there, you feel you're definitely picking a shot up on the field. I was almost like greedy out there. I wanted to birdie every hole, and I felt like I could birdie every hole. And it was an incredible feeling, like an incredible place to be in, and doing it with them crowds watching it. It's the most incredible day I've ever had in a golf course.
The downwind 17th offered another chance for a birdie in what was becoming one of the great Open rounds.
This is just magnificent. This is just extraordinary. Something's going to wake me up any minute.
You don't really get to know how good a player's game is until you really stand beside him. But to do it there, getting cheered on the way was, on off every green, every tee, it was a bit surreal, if I'm completely honest.
A 4-shot lead for Shane Lowry. 3 in a row, just the 18th to come.
Although inevitably overshadowed, Lowry's closest pursuer was applying the final touches to an impressive round of his own.
Shane was behind and he was holding some putts, making birdies, and you can hear all those cheers, so it almost feels you come off, you shot 5 under in the 3rd round, played like flawless, and you're almost like a little bit disappointed, and it was like important to not look at Shane's round and think that, you know, like it wasn't a great round, because it really was.
66 for Tommy Fleetwood, and he'll have Shane Lowry for company tomorrow.
You finish the round and you have a lot of press to do, and you never really switch off until you actually eventually leave the course, and you kind of drive back and you're looking out the window, and at the end of the day, my ultimate dream, as well as any British golfer, is to win the Open. Your lifelong dream is alive.
Yet for Lowry, the record books beckoned. A birdie on the last would yield an unthinkable 62. The joint lowest round in a major championship.
Oh, goodness me. Almost perfection from Lowry every hole today.
Lowry had found himself in this position before, having established a 4-shot lead after 3 rounds in the 2016 US Open at Oakmont. Then he faded into a tie for 2nd, but this felt different. It had been a truly epic performance, as was his reception on the 18th, and history was still on the line.
I actually didn't know that he had a putt for 62 in the last green. Genuinely, I knew we were going pretty low.
I'm not too sure if I really knew, but I was just trying to make birdie and see if it dropped in. And I thought I had it, to be honest.
Oh!
What a round of golf. 63.
It was an incredible feeling, like doing it with them crowds watching it is just the most incredible day I've ever had in the golf course. I nudged Bo, I said, look up there, I said, at least I won't have to answer too many questions about Oakmont now, 4 ahead. I was doing my press, and about 3 questions in, it was asked, and I was like, finally, someone's asked it, you know. And I just laid everything out on the table. I said, I think I'm a different person than I was then. I'm a different golfer, and I probably didn't fight hard enough in Oakmont. And I said, one thing's for sure, on Sunday in Portrush, I'm going to fight as hard as I can to win that tournament.
Let's play some music for these guys, then.
Lowry had conjured up a round for the ages, but the most scrutinised day of his life lay ahead. The beguiling coastline of Northern Ireland, moulded over millions of years, and on Sunday, July the 21st, 2019, the backdrop for a single, monumental day in golfing folklore. After such a long wait for the Open to make its way back to Portrush, thousands turned out to witness a coronation. 12 months earlier, it was King Francesco, and in the closing round this time, Molinari was regal. An eagle on the 12th, helping the Italian post a 66 in the relative calm of the morning. He eventually tied for 11th, assisted by a marked deterioration in the weather. Tyrrell Hatton also made the most of his early start, ball striking instrumental in reaching 5 under, securing a share of 6th alongside Danny Willett. Such was the threat of stormy conditions, tee times were brought forward by 2 hours. Good news for the leader, who quite naturally was afflicted by butterflies.
Sunday morning I struggled to eat my breakfast. I didn't have any lunch. It was a bag of nerves, but no, it's only human. You're 4-shot lead in the biggest tournament of your life.
The perils of Portrush were being laid bare as the wind stiffened. John Rahm's challenge had slowly faded over the weekend, and a 75 saw him relegated from the top 10.
Oh, Jordan, that's bad.
Similarly, Jordan Spieth struggled. He ran up a 77 to drop into a tie for 20th. But no matter the conditions, the final round of any Open produces magic, such as this from Lee Westwood at the 3rd. Having opened with a double bogey, Ricky Fowler found the perfect response.
3 straight birdies after the poor start.
The Californian would end the day in a logjam for 6th. As the squalls began to turn ugly, not even the world #1 was protected. That set the tone for a run of 4 bogeys on the opening 4 holes and persuaded playing partner JB Holmes into a club change. His initial tee shot was even worse and symptomatic of what was to follow: implosion and a round of 87. Lowry also found potential trouble off the first tee, affording Fleetwood an opportunity to inflict an immediate blow.
Well, there could be a sudden turnaround here.
4 shots isn't a lot, especially in an Open, like with conditions, and anything can happen. By the time that we got to the end of the hole, I had 7-8 feet for birdie. Shane's got 6 feet for bogey.
Tommy holds that and I miss, you know, it goes back to a 1-shot lead. All of a sudden, Oakmont does start coming into your head.
Last round of the Open. Are the nerves jangling? Absolutely.
Well, you don't often see that, do you? A little fist bump with a bogey putt, and the gap is 3.
That was a very important 2 minutes in the whole scheme of things.
He had said to me in the past that I think it was in the 14th in Oakmont that, you know, he was only 1 behind when he felt like he'd thrown it away when he really hadn't, and he learned a lot from that.
On the 2nd, both putted for birdie on the same line, but Fleetwood was appreciably closer. Lowry didn't just miss. He'd supplied a useful read for his rival, who was aiming to cut the deficit even further.
Just a par, still 3 in it.
Another wasted chance. And worse still, Fleetwood was in danger of bogeying the 3rd.
That's it, it leads 4 again.
I needed to press better earlier on, which I didn't do.
Sensing blood, Lowry went on the offensive. A clinical birdie at the 4th extended his lead to 5 shots. Like all great champions, Brooks Koepka's head refused to drop. An eagle 2 on the drivable 5th elevated his spirits, but by now, winning yet another major depended on the resilience of others.
He hung in there well. He had a bad start there on Sunday, and he kept going, and anything can happen at any point, especially we knew there was a lot of bad weather coming in.
Koepka couldn't be ignored, but Lowry's chief challenger remained Fleetwood, who had an eagle look of his own at the 5th. Fleetwood's putter stone cold, but that wasn't an issue for Lowry.
Back-to-back birdies for the big Irishman. He's back in control.
The birdie on 4 and 5 really set me down.
Tommy's going to have to push really hard to make birdies, where we can just play into the middle of the greens.
Lowry was flying high, but menacing clouds were scudding in, just as the forecasters predicted. Yet for Robert McIntyre, a European Tour rookie on his major debut, the sanctuary of the clubhouse beckoned. With a closing 68, the young Scot guaranteed a top 10 finish. The anticipated deluge soon arrived, but nothing, it seemed, could deter Lowry's fan base. But it did affect the focus of their support.
The weather was horrendously bad. I've never seen rain like that on the golf course. And then the tee shot on 9 was just, I mean, the rain was so bad that God, no, I didn't know where I was going to go if I hit driver, so I had to iron off the tee. Made bogey there, but I kept on telling myself bogeys weren't going to hurt me, you know. If I made the odd bogey, I could still go on and win this thing.
The weather was eroding Lowry's lead, and the patience of Justin rose. The Englishman carded a 79.
That is a solid, straight shank.
Lee Westwood's perseverance would be rewarded with a share of 4th place, ensuring his spot in a 26th consecutive Open at Royal St George's next year. The final group were now at the par 3 13th, where Lowry faced a testing up and down.
The bunker save on 13 was huge, and you're thinking for a minute, if this is going to get really tight at the end, it's going to take one mistake by Shane, and it turned out to be one mistake by Tommy.
After finding a fairway bunker, then greenside rough, Fleetwood fatally faltered on the 14th.
Went wrong, you know, made double and definitely walking off that green. There was that sense of deflation, and then sort of the realisation on the 15th tee was that, yeah, it's probably too much now.
Lowry's lead was expanding, and with his proud father Brendan watching on at the 15th, the now runaway leader was about to remove any lingering doubt.
I hit a lovely lob wedge to maybe about 8 feet, and that just put so much pressure on him. He's 5 behind with 4 holes to play, and I'm into 8 feet, so it put so much pressure on him, and then he doesn't make birdie. And I stood over that putt and I said, this is it, like, I hold this, like, I feel like I can win from here.
What a time to throw in another birdie.
Lowry's major milestone was rapidly approaching, much to the delight of fans and family alike. Tony Finau had stealthily risen up the leaderboard on Sunday. He couldn't quite manage a birdie at the last, but regardless, the satisfaction of 3rd place was his. And although this historic day wasn't officially over, the engraver could confidently etch the name of Lowry onto the modern champions band that encircles the base of the Claret Jug. As for Koepka, his place in the pantheon of Open champions will have to wait. He tied 4th.
Another stunning major performance by Brooks Koepka. Not quite able to add to his 4 wins in the last 2 years.
Brooks finished out, he hugged me and he just went, sorry I couldn't win it for you, mate. I think at times he was maybe trying a little bit too hard for me.
All eyes were now trained on Lowry and the most unforgettable walk of his life.
Just before I got down to the ball, and I kind of walked around the corner where you could see the flag, and I could see my daughter was wearing a yellow jacket that was very, you know, visible, you'd be able to see it, so I could see my family, and I started to, like, I almost cried, and I said to Bo, God, I'm welling up here, and he goes, well, cop yourself on because you've got a shot to hit here. Once I hit that, I handed him the club, but I told him I loved him.
I spent the dark nights holding putts thinking I was going to win the Open Championship. We're Links players, that's what we grew up doing. It's the championship that we want to win. It was just a pretty unbelievable feeling.
Fleetwood had also starred in a remarkable championship, finishing second. Succumbing only to an inspired rival.
No doubt about it, there was only one deserving winner, which was Shane. He played the best golf throughout the week and he totally deserved it, and it was an amazing moment for him and his family. And I'm pleased that I was there up front and centre to see that moment. I just wonder, I can just look to the future and hope it'll be me.
But now, it's all about the winner.
I couldn't believe that it was me standing there on 18, and you'd love to be able to stand there for longer because it's so hard to take everything in, but just to be able to knock that putt in and lift your hands up and, you know, hug Bo and see my family is just incredible.
The return of the Open to Royal Portrush has been an absolute triumph. And just to set the seal on an unforgettable week, Shane Lowry is the Open champion.
Lowry had stared down his demons and stood firm. Swimming through a sea of emotion under the most incredible pressure, he emerged as the leading man, morphing dreams into reality.
I think he's one of the best players in the world. I've thought that since I started working for him. I think he thought he was one of the best players in the world, but he proved to himself how good he really is, and that's what I'm proud of him for.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Shane Lowry.
I never thought I would do it, you know. If you were to put down on paper all the tournaments I'm going to play in my whole career, which one would you really, really, really want to win? That would probably be it, like.
See it? Oh.
How lucky am I being able to do that?